So now we're on question 11, 12, and 13. And it was asking you about the motivation of the different European countries who come here. So Spain's motivation is the 3 G's: gold, God, glory. And remember, they're a Catholic country, so they're trying to convert people to Catholicism. And really the main focus of the conquistadors is gold. God and glory. God is definitely the third one. Glory is certainly the second one after gold. The French are going to come here from, France, and they like the 3 F's: fish, fur, and faith. Their faith is also a Catholic faith, so they're going to try and convert people as well. And then we have England, or Britain, and so the English motives are real: religion, economics, adventure, and land. So you are going to have people who come here to the New World for religious freedom for their groups, the Puritans, the Pilgrims. You got economics. You're going to have plenty of English people who are going to come here because they're hoping to make it wealthier, or make it rich. They certainly don't want to stay in poverty in England. There's always the adventure seekers, and then there's land. Land is wealth. When you die, you can pass your land down to your children. Now, when we look at the gold part, remember, most of the stuff that they're going to find over here is silver. A lot of silver in the New World. And that silver is going to make Spain exceptionally wealthy. And so when everybody sees Spain getting really rich when they were really poor not that long ago, it really kind of makes all the other royals, the other monarchies in Europe, jealous, and they would like to also get that wealth. So that's really going to be another one of our motives, a little bit of jealousy and envy. The next question is, describe the Spanish, French, and English areas of settlement in the New World. So just as a simplistic kind of, key point, Spain, think Central, South America. This is where Spain is pretty much going to settle, okay? So they're coming here for that reason. Now remember, this area of Brazil will be Portugal's, okay? And then Portugal really doesn't do too much in the New World, at least on this half of the globe. France is going to settle here in the North American area along Canada. They actually are going to have the Mississippi River, so that river that's like the equivalent of I-95, but it's just a river, and they're going to have control of that. And as time goes on, that'll become more important later in the course, because when the United States becomes the United States, we're definitely going to want the Mississippi River for trade. England is going to settle here along the eastern coast of North America. England is right here. So when you look at England being right here, that's closest to them. France is right here, so not too far from them. Spain's right here. So, you can kind of see why they settle along the areas that they do. England is going to beat up the Dutch, and they're going to take New York as time goes on, so that it'll become theirs. And you're going to see these lands exchanging hands when wars happen, because when you lose a war, you lose your land a lot of times. Number 15 is define the Sea Dogs. So Sea Dogs are privateers, are basically pirates authorized by the government. Queen Elizabeth I is broke once she comes to the throne. Her dad, King Henry VIII, and everything that happened thereafter has pretty much left England poor. And so you really can't be a poor queen, at least not one in style. So what she does is she authorizes her English soldiers to go ahead and steal from Spain. It's not hard to figure out which of the Spanish boats has silver in it. It's going to be the one that's heavier in the water, the one that's deeper. And at first, Spain's really bold. They don't have very many military ships around that silver boat, and so as time goes on, they'll have to change that, because people like Sir Francis Drake, they're going to go ahead and they're going to see that boat, they're going to attack it, they take the silver, and then they bring it back to Queen Elizabeth I. They're privateers for her. Spain calls them pirates. And so that's pretty much how it looks, and that's going to lead to a conflict between Queen Elizabeth and the King of Spain, King Philip. So who was Sir Walter Raleigh? You guys live in North Carolina. He is the guy who is one of Queen Elizabeth's favorites. And he comes here, or he leads really an expedition. He like finances it. He tries to form a colony at Roanoke, and he tries it and it fails. It's called the Lost Colony. Not real sure what happened to these people, but when they come back to do resupplies, there's nobody there. And here's the famous, like picture that they drew because they found on a tree this word Croatan. We're not real sure if what happened to the Lost Colony. They could have merged with the local American Indians tribes. They could have went inland because of the hurricane season in North Carolina. It could just simply be that, a disease wiped them out. But, it's a mystery of history and it intrigues people. Now, number 17, why were the English really defeated with the Spanish Armada, and why is it like a turning point? So England defeats Spain because Spain sells out at a really bad time. A storm attacks their Spanish fleet. The storm pretty much takes them out, and by the time they get to England, they're not the fighting Spanish Armada like they should be. So weather kind of more or less gets them. But why is it really a turning point? Is that at this point, once England defeats the Spanish Armada, Queen Elizabeth I has proven that she is a capable queen, and no one's really going to mess with her. I mean, you defeated Spain, the mighty Spanish Empire that had all this money. And so here's Queen Elizabeth I, and she even paints it that she was able to defeat the Spanish Armada in her pictures. And so thanks to England defeating Spain, England now is able to get into the North American settling and exploration business, and Spain's not going to be a threat anymore. From this point on, Spain is going to be conserving what they have left. They're not worried about trying to expand too much more. Expand too much more, you're going to get in a problem with England, and England just kicked your butt. So what does indigenous mean? It just means native to the land or original to the land, okay? So think Aztecs. This is Quetzalcoatl. It's one of their gods. And here's an Aztec city, okay? So when you look at indigenous, they had indigenous gods. They had native gods. They had native architecture, indigenous architecture. So this is what indigenous means. It means native or original to. When you look at question 19, who promoted the Black Legend and why? The Black Legend is this legend of death and destruction, and England is going to promote it. Whenever you're looking at a rumor, just figure out who has the most to gain by spreading that rumor, that gossip. And it's England. England spreads this legend around that whenever Spain comes to a new place, to a new area in the New World, they bring nothing but death and destruction. They're like locusts. They absorb everything, consume everything in the land. Now, England does this to make themselves look better. They're no better than Spain. They're going to do the same thing. But they go to the natives and are like, look, you would rather us come than Spain come. Because when Spain comes, you guys all die. At least we're going to try and make deals with you. And they try and sweet talk them, but pretty much they do the same thing that the Spanish do. Okay? They're going to conquer. And so here's Columbus conquering. Here are conquistadors. Okay, this is what they thought it looked like. But England makes it look very bad. Now, there is a white legend that exists too. This is done later in the 1900s when Spain is trying to kind of whitewash their history and make it look like the conquistadors weren't really that bad, that they really didn't kill a lot of people. Which, they did. All right, question 20, explain the income in the system. This is basically just a way for Spain to make the indigenous population work on their plantations or their haciendas. So they have big land and they need workers. And so basically they enslaved them. The thing is that you are allowed to take locals and let them work on your land, and in return you would Christianize them and treat them well. In reality, nobody does it. So it's just a Spanish system in which European settlers who are now coming to the New World are allowed and use locals to farm and cultivate the land in the New World. It enslaved them. And it creates a whole new group of people. The Peninsulars are the people who are born there in Spain. The Creoles are the people who are born here in the New World. They're Spanish, but they happen to be born in the New World. The Mezzitos and the Mulattoes are the group of people who the Peninsulars and the Creoles will create by having children with the indigenous population or with the slave population, because you will have slaves being brought to the New World. And slaves are going to be at the very bottom of this social hierarchy, this pyramid. These people had all the power. These people resented them. And everybody pretty much resents everybody up there at the top. Okay. Now, the next question, 21, you had to name 3 infectious diseases that impacted the American Indians. So if you look at the chart that I gave you on the Columbian Exchange, this little death one right here. Okay. Now, it would be traveling this way. Okay. So smallpox, measles, influenza, the flu, these are things that the local population has no immunities to. So it's very, it spreads really quick and it kills very quick. And it's part of the reason why the conquistadors can actually conquer as quickly as they can, is because typically when they get off the boat, someone's sick and they're kind of more or less immune to it, or it's killed them already, and it spreads among the local population, the indigenous population, so quick that it doesn't take long for you to conquer 30 people. Okay. The conquistadors do not travel in huge army sizes. They travel with very small forces, but yet they're able to take out larger indigenous population, mainly because of the disease factor. So what exactly was the Columbian Exchange? It was an exchange of goods between Europe and the Americas. So remember, a lot of vegetables are going to come from the New World to Europe. A lot of things that we just kind of assume are a part of European fare. Like when you think Irish, you think of the potato, but the potato is really from the New World here, from the Americas. Same thing with tomatoes. You really think a lot of like pasta dishes. You think tomatoes. You think that with Italy, but they never had tomatoes until they got into the Columbian Exchange with this New World. Now Europe brings a lot of meat products, because remember, they don't have a lot of meat items here in the New World. So they bring things like cattle, sheep, pigs, horses. So all those things are going to be brought over here to the New World. So it's just an exchange of goods. Okay. Now, last question was, what role did national and religious rivalries have on the Age of Exploration? Nationalism is pride in your nation. So each nation wanted to outdo the other. Think of it as patriotism. Spain wanted to be more important than Portugal and England, and they wanted to be more important than Spain. So, it's this little rivalry that starts. The religious rivalries refers to division in Christianity between the Catholics and the Protestants. So now you've got Martin Luther over here, who does his little 95 thesis in what we would know today as Germany. It spreads. People like King Henry VIII figure out, if I can have my own religion, I don't have to pay the Pope any taxes, and I get to keep all the taxes for myself. So Protestantism spreads pretty quickly, and there are people who are displeased that also join. They don't feel like the Catholic Church is helping them out. The English and the Dutch become Protestant, and they want to convert other people, so that there is that conversion factor. The French, the Portuguese, and the Spanish, they're all Catholic, and they want to do the same thing. So when you get this new land, whenever you come to the New World, your big objective as a good Christian, whether you're Protestant or whether you're a Catholic, is to convert people over to your religion. It's just how they go about doing it. They are not always nice when they do it. They are typically rude and violent, and they don't really ask the local population if they want to convert. Okay, so this is just a really good review and a quick one of Era 1 for you guys, so that you can study and be well prepared for the test.